SuperTalk Mississippi media production.
Oh, yeah.
Good morning, Mississippi.
Everything gonna be all right this morning.
Mornings with Richard Cross.
Oh, yeah.
Here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Woo! Now, when I was a young boy, at the age of 5, my mother said I was gonna be the greatest man alive. But now I'm a man.
Good morning. Thursday mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk Mississippi, streaming at supertalk.fm and SuperTalk TV. Thanks for being with us. I thought today was going to be the day where you walked outside and it was a little cool. It's like, ooh. Yeah, not really.
Muggy.
Not really. Not going to be too bad temperature-wise today. It'll be around 80 degrees for a lot of the state, but it was not the cool, breezy, let's sit outside and have the coffee that I'd hoped for this morning.
Yeah, it was a little muggy around here. It rained and misted, and rained some more. And it was nice and muggy out there.
Man, it was strange yesterday. So you had stuff canceled after schools yesterday in Oxford, and the forecast was bad, like for maybe severe thunderstorms. Lance, I bet combined in Lafayette County, there were 87 raindrops that hit the ground yesterday. 87 across the entire county. It was one of those deals where if you looked at that front as it was coming across the Mississippi River, it was dark green and light green, and there were some dots of red mixed in, and it looked nasty. And the farther it worked to the east and to the north, it just kind of petered out and dissipated, and you got a few sprinkles out of it. That was it. It was weird.
It was a head fake, man. It's football season, it was a good play action, and it just kept on going.
It was that. Oxford today, cloudy this morning, then off and on rain showers, we think, during the afternoon. High of 78 with winds out of the northwest at 5 to 10. Chance of rain about 40%. Down in the metro area, Clinton, you've got intervals of clouds and sunshine today with a high of 83 and winds out of the west-northwest at 5 to 10 miles per hour. Hattiesburg, you've got rain showers this morning, overcast skies later today. Mid-80s with the wind out of the west. Gulfport, thunderstorms this morning. Cloudy skies later in the day, high of 83. Winds out of the west-southwest at 10 to 15 miles per hour with a 60% chance of rain. That's your statewide forecast, a little sampling from a bunch of different places across the state of Mississippi. It's getting to the end of September. We're ready, I think. I'm hearing that sentiment more and more, like, I've kind of had enough of the heat. Had enough of the humidity, ready for it to cool off a little bit.
And it felt great yesterday. I got a big industrial-sized tiller, had redoing the yard, and man, I tell you, I got about halfway through it, and the rain started just misting down. I'm like, this isn't going to be too bad,
Yeah.
And it softened the ground up a little bit as I kept going. No, boy, it came a downpour. And, it just felt so good. Other than the ankle-deep mud I was slopping around in.
So it makes it a little tough to till.
But, man, the rain felt so good. After you've had 95s and all that, it's been a while since I just walked around outside in the rain for an hour, soaking wet. And I was like, man, it's going to get cold soon. Enjoy it while you can. But it was nice, It was nice other than the mud. But, yeah, the yard looks great now. Ready for seed.
I'm with you. It was a good work day in the yard yesterday for me as well. If you want to join the conversation, we'd love for you to do so on the C Spire text line, 601-879-4395, 601-879-4395. C Spire has you covered. On the field, your team has you covered. Everywhere else, it's C Spire. The best technology for home, work, and on the go. Backed by local 24/7 customer support. Learn more at cspire.com. C Spire, inspired by you. Birthdays today. Today is September the 25th. let's just start with the most important. All right? Mama! My mama! Happy birthday today. She is actually out of town. My brother and his family live in Texas, and she is visiting them for the week. So we don't get to celebrate with her today. I don't get to give her a big hug, but thinking about her from 8 hours away, I probably shouldn't do the born on. I don't know that she cares. She was born in 1954 and is one of the strongest, kindest, most loving women that exist on planet Earth. I am convinced of it. And you can argue with me till you're blue in the face about that, but you would be wrong. She's absolutely the best. Loves her boys, my brother and me, and she loves her grandchildren, maybe even more than her boys. That seems to be the case.
That's the way it works. I think.
That's the way it works. I'm kidding. She is absolutely fantastic and always up for an adventure, always up for a trip. Just the best I ever could have asked for, and I am so incredibly thankful for her. Love you, Mom. She listens pretty regularly. I don't know if she does so while she's in Texas, but anyway.
You can, though, if you want to.
She absolutely can and does on the regular. So my mom, Beverly, shares a birthday today with William Faulkner, who was born in 1897. Won a Nobel Prize for Sound and the Fury. Born in New Albany, Mississippi, just down the road. It's where Gerard was yesterday, where the boys on Sports Talk were yesterday for the Tallahatchie River Festival. Phil Rizzuto, born on this day in 1917, American Baseball Hall of Fame shortstop. Am I crazy if I say of all the great Yankees of that era that he is one of the last to come to mind?
I would agree with that. Not because of his play or anything.
No, he was a 5-time All-Star, 7-time World Series champion, was the AL MVP in 1950, and then went on to a career with and broadcasting as well, and was a local kid. He was born in Brooklyn. Maybe within New York City, he is one that pops a little earlier, just like in terms of the memory. But, I mean, when you go back farther, you've got Babe Ruth, and then you move into this era, and you had Yogi Berra there, and you had Lou Gehrig there, and you had so many.
No, they're loaded. I mean,
so many. Barbara Walters was born on this day in 1929, the American broadcast journalist, first female nightly news anchor. She was on the Today Show, 2020, ABC, and then later in life, The View, born in Boston, Massachusetts. She passed away in 2022. I remember Barbara Walters from 2020. I guess, like, maybe my late elementary, junior high years before we were kind of doing stuff on Friday nights. It was always TGIF. So you had, Full House and Family Matters and whatever else. And then when it got to, I guess it was 9 o'clock, 2020 came on with Hugh Downs and Barbara Walters. Just kind of didn't change the channel. 1933, Hubie Brown. Do you remember that name? American basketball coach, as a Hall of Famer, but also as a broadcaster, 2-time NBA Coach of the Year, born in Pennsylvania. Michael Douglas is 81 years old today. Coma, Wall Street, Jewel of the Nile, so many more, born in New Brunswick, New Jersey.
You didn't say Romancing the Stone.
I didn't.
It's one of the best ones.
I actually skip ahead on the birthdays because this is crazy.
But
all right, so Michael Douglas, born on September 25th, 1944. His wife, Catherine Zeta-Jones, born September 25th, 1969.
Wow.
Do you know that?
I did not. That's
the always beautiful Catherine Zeta-Jones.
Yeah, she's a beauty.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know she was Welsh.
Yeah,
she
me
was
either.
Spanish or something.
Yeah. Mark Hamill was born in 1951. I mentioned that not because I'm a Star Wars guy, but many of you are. He played Luke Skywalker in Star Wars, born in Oakland, California. The late Christopher Reeve, born in 1952. Superman. Passed away in 2004, had an accident, was a paraplegic. Sylvester Croom, born on this day in 1954, former head football coach at Mississippi State, played for Bear Bryant at the University of Alabama.
One of those favorite sons, stories as well. Tuscaloosa boy.
Yeah. Maybe not considered a favorite son in Starkville. Didn't go so well. Basketball Hall of Famer Scottie Pippen, 60. Six-time world champion with the Bulls, seven-time All-Star game and MVP in 94. Pair of Olympic gold medals, born in Hamburg, Arkansas. The Fresh Prince is 57. Will East, born in 1968. Grammy Award-winning rapper from his DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince days.
You lit it up with that.
Remember, parents just don't understand. Okay, here's the situation. My parents went out on a week's vacation.
Clean rap, man.
Men in Black, Independence Day, Hitch, Fresh Prince, born in Philly. Get you some things that happened and some news headlines when we come back. MRC on Super Talk, Mississippi.
From the Venable.
Reaching across the state and across the aisle. Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi.
Mornings with Richard Cross, Super Talk, Mississippi. You miss nothing. That's right. You miss nothing. Because when I slip and instead of saying Will Smith is having a birthday today, and I instead say that Will East is having a birthday, you get it. Will East, decidedly not the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Decidedly not.
He's
the
not
Fresh Prince of, is it Hulka?
Yeah, the Fresh Prince of Hulka, exactly. He's been known to head up to the stage and put a pimp slap on Chris Rock, too, so you got to be careful with Will.
Yeah.
Keep you in line around here.
Man, does this week feel like Back to the Future?
I don't know, man. I've been confused all week. So
well, and here's why I ask. Like, I feel like we literally have gotten the DeLorean out and we've gone back in time because everywhere I look, I see Kamala Harris and Hillary Clinton on my television.
I love, too, the way that Harris is like, well, I just didn't have enough time. Well, you had enough time to blow $1 billion. I mean, is that a record?
The longer she was in the race, the worse she got and the worse the polling was. There was a point where she was neck and neck and even had a lead against Donald Trump, and then we got to hear her talk.
That was a week later, right?
Yes. But it's actually kind of, if you hope, if you yearn for, if you get on your knees at night and pray every single night that at the end of this term for Donald Trump in, January of 29, when he peacefully hands over the power to whomever the next president is, if you are hoping and praying that that person is a Republican, man, you got to be happy right now. You just wish they'd do it for 3 more years. The dim playbook, let's see. What didn't work last time? It didn't work when we called them Nazis. It didn't work when we called them fascists. It didn't work when we trotted out the Clintons. It didn't work when we trotted out the Obamas. It didn't work when we had a bad candidate. Let's do it all over again. Sweet.
Yeah,
that's great. That's fantastic.
I guess if you just double, triple, and quadruple down it, it'll happen, if you just keep saying everything.
No, that's not really how it works, Lance. That is not how it works, I hope.
Hillary thinks so.
And by the way, do you have the tolerance for 3 more years of this version of Gavin Newsom?
Oh, goodness, man.
Great googly moogly.
He's a tough guy.
This day in 1780, American Army officer Benedict Arnold defected to the British. Get lost, traitor.
Yeah, he was the head of West Point at some point, right?
Sequoia National Park was established on this day in 1890 by President Benjamin Harrison, California's first national park and the country's second. You know, those sequoia trees wouldn't be there and wouldn't have had the life that they are having if not for my time as governor.
Who, Gavin?
I'm sure Gavin Newsom would say.
Of course. I mean, as he's working out at Curves, getting his teeth bleached.
This day in 1965, at 60 years old, Satchel Paige of the Kansas City Athletics pitched 3 scoreless innings. I want you to think about the 60-year-olds that you know in your life. And now think about the most athletic, in shape 60-year-old in your life. And now imagine them standing on the mound of a Major League Baseball stadium and pitching to a 21-year-old, 25-year-old, and going scoreless for 3.
It's amazing.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
That is so cool. So is this, I think. In 1976, Bono, David Evans, and his brother Dick, and Adam Clayton responded to an advertisement on a bulletin board at Mount Temple posted by fellow student Larry Mullen Jr., who was looking to form a rock band. They responded, and the band became U2.
Kind of worked out well for him there. Got to read the paper. Got to read the paper every now and again.
Yeah, the old bulletin board with the help wanted ads. 1981, today, Sandra Day O'Connor sworn in as the first female United States Supreme Court Justice 2015. Caitlyn Jenner officially changed her name from Bruce to Caitlyn and her gender from male to female.
You can do it like that.
Yeah.
Yep. Nothing to it.
I will say, credit where it's due. Bruce/Caitlyn seems to have handled this better than most. That's the nicest thing I can say. You're talking about one of the great American athletes in history who just up and one day decided, I don't like the equipment anymore.
It's funny because I like watching Family Guy, and years before that happened, they predicted it. I mean, it was way in advance, and they did 2 or 3 different skits over the years. And when it actually happened, I was like, "What what was going on here?" It's just odd because apparently there was something going on. It seemed very evident that he must have had some issues going back as the interviews went on. But I mean, it was just such a quick thing, and you're like, "Oh, okay," and it seemed to start a lot of the discussion.
Yeah. Yeah, it was far less mainstream at the time. 2017, American rockers Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers ended their 40th anniversary tour with a concert at the Hollywood Bowl in Hollywood, California, in what becomes the final performance of Tom Petty's career. The last song played, their early hit, American Girl.
So many good ones, though.
Yeah. No doubt. How about this? 7 years ago, 2018, in an address to the UN General Assembly, Donald Trump spoke down about and criticized globalism and Iran. 2 days ago, at the UN, Donald Trump criticized globalism and spoke poorly of Iran.
And he's like, "Hey, I can help you guys out, too. I mean, if you want to ask, I know how to fix some of your problems."
Yeah. Man, how about the ice-cold address to Venezuela with the Venezuelan delegation sitting right there? Calling Maduro out by name?
Gotta love Trump, though. I mean,
The United States military taking out boats.
it is just such a nonchalant way. I don't know if we'll ever truly appreciate until Trump is gone, unfortunately, the way that he communicates. I mean, I know in the first term, some people just didn't like it. But I think as we've come back to this again, you see how he can speak directly, whether it's with great emotion or just kind of jokey or nonchalant. He can hold it together, and it's usually very entertaining. I mean, I find him a very entertaining speaker, and that's hard to say about many presidents that we've had.
Sometimes it's a bit much for me, if I'm being honest.
I'm just saying, but he's entertaining.
But there's no doubt.
Yeah. It can be a bit much, but again, I find it interesting. The tone and the way he goes about it, his syntax, it's not common,
Yeah. I think Stephen Miller is an incredible policy maker, policy crafter, behind the scenes guy, and his ability to eviscerate someone is second to none.
Yeah.
And
he likes it.
But his speech pattern is so stilted. It's like I have trouble listening to him. I don't know.
Trump can be that way at times, but again, I find it very entertaining because it's not as rehearsed, it seems, and by the book.
Oh, he's much better off the cuff than he is reading.
Mm-hmm. He can be a little like this when he's reading.
One of Jackson's most recognizable downtown landmarks is preparing for a new chapter, thanks in large part to a $250,000 donation from the C Spire Foundation. Funding will support the transformation of the long-closed Russell Davis Planetarium into an attraction called the world's first orbital museum. The project, which is already underway, will bring immersive exhibits that use augmented and virtual reality to tell the story of Mississippi's role in the United States space program. The planetarium shut its doors back in 2019. New programming, though, designed to spark interest in science, technology, engineering, and math among students and their families. Mayor John Horn praised the contribution for a boost for both education and downtown revitalization. C Spire Foundation has been focused on STEM advancements in Mississippi, Tennessee, and Alabama since 2005. And for Jackson, a big, big gift. We're back with you after this.
No one works, fights, or eats like the boys of mine.
From theSeabrook.com.
Mornings with Richard Cross. What's up?
Let's get the show going.
Super Talk, Mississippi.
C-Spire text line open, 601-879-4395. James in Oxford. Richard, do you think Charlie Kirk's wife will run for president one day? It says in the near future. I have no idea, James. My gut is probably not, but there were a lot of people that were ready to crown her after one heartfelt speech on last Sunday. Bubba says, I love Trump's policies. However, he is a jerk. Way too much drama for me. Why do you say he's a jerk, Bubba? I mean, because in the promenade, he put a picture of every single United States president in the Presidential Hall of Fame, and he put a picture of Joe Biden's signature signed with an auto pen. Did you see that yesterday, Lance?
I did. Standing there looking at it, too.
Do you think Don Jr. will ever run for president? I don't know.
A lot's going to happen between now and whenever.
Man, there's a lot that's going to happen between now and 2028.
Yeah, I mean, until maybe Monday.
I mean, as it stands today, I would say that J.D. Vance and Marco Rubio, in a perfect world, are your next two presidents. I say in a perfect world. I mean, from the perspective that I sit in today.
You know my opinion.
My only concern about that, sorry to interrupt.
No, go ahead.
My only concern about that is the two of them kind of living in harmony
For now.
and waiting their turn. Who knows?
It's like
we will.
there's two quarterbacks sitting over there that were first-round draft picks going, when's going to be my time? But, on the other side of the equation, the Democrat, I would really love to see, as I've told you many times, AOC Kamala. That would be the absolute best. I mean, just for entertainment value. The former bartender, and then you got the professional drinker and talker. Oh, man, that would be history.
Yeah.
But it ain't going to happen. We'll have Gavin. He's the front runner, obviously.
Well,
And he's their
unelectable.
he's their boss. You know what I'm saying? Like he's got the biceps, got the good hair, the teeth. He talks big. Boy, he's
got
tough.
the Pat Riley hair without the Pat Riley brain.
He's tough.
Ground was broken Wednesday of this week on an $8.7 million enhancement project at the Trent Lott International Airport. An investment that officials say will cost the airport's capacity to support more industrial and commercial development along the Mississippi Gulf Coast. Officials gathered at the Moss Point Airport to put shovels in the ground for the project. It's being funded by a combination of local, state, and federal sources. It will include construction of a new concrete aircraft parking apron and connector taxiway and taxiway lighting rehab. Rex Foster, who is chairman of the Jackson County Airport Authority, believes the project is just the beginning of a bright future for the Trent Lott International Airport. He believes it's going to offer military application and services. Believes the project will serve as a segue to more growth in the area's economy. So good news there. Entergy Mississippi is getting set to carry out a $300 million superpower grid expansion. The campaign, called Superpower Mississippi, aims to save customers millions in costs that otherwise would be included in future bills. Although Entergy Mississippi makes power reliability investments every year that are already included in customer bills, the utility provider plans to ask the Public Service Commission to approve a 50% increase in total spending on grid improvements at no cost to customers. The upped investment, again, valued around $300 million. Per company officials, the spending increase is possible because of new revenues provided by Amazon and other large industrial investments in Mississippi. It will go toward the goal of cutting power outages for Entergy Mississippi customers in half within 5 years by making the system more reliable. It includes installing stronger poles that are designed to extend extreme weather conditions, implementing more smart devices and real-time monitoring systems, and increasing tree trimming and dead tree removal measures to help prevent and decrease outages throughout their service area. Governor Tate Reeves has approved an extension of Mississippi National Guard troops deployed to Washington, D.C. through the end of November. The Republican and ally of the president made the announcement yesterday after sending roughly 200 troops to the nation's capital back in August. Trump federalized the Metro Police Department, allowing for hundreds of National Guard soldiers and federal agents to be deployed to police the streets of the capital. The president's efforts to beautify D.C. followed the assault of 19-year-old Doge employee Edward Coriston. He had a nickname. And a reported spike in violent crime. 2 weeks ago, the president's control of Metro Police expired. Congress did not renew the 30-day takeover. However, members of the D.C. National Guard, which is under the authority of the commander-in-chief, will continue patrolling the streets alongside soldiers from counterparts in Mississippi and a handful of other Republican-led states. Tate Reeves said in a post on X, the brave men and women of the Mississippi National Guard have been instrumental in making that happen. I've approved extending their deployment to November 30th. Mississippi's recently revived Amtrak passenger rail line on the coast saw its first wreck on Tuesday night. According to the Pass Christian Police Department, the individuals were traveling in a car south and were struck by the train that was heading east toward its next stop in Gulfport. That was at approximately 7:08 p.m. on Tuesday night. The crash happened at the intersection of Davis Avenue and the tracks. Both victims were transported to Ochsner Medical Center, where they were pronounced dead. They were identified later as Douglas Craddock and Taviana Elegant, 31 and 24, respectively. Some are very concerned about lights on the rail line potentially being out, but the police chief, Darren Freeman, said that all evidence indicates the lights were on and flashing at the intersection of the railroad. Time for some sports headlines. Brought to you by Pearl River Resort. Find them online at pearlriverresort.com. Your home for family fun, casino thrills, and live entertainment. pearlriverresort.com. Just a handful of Major League Baseball stories for you real quick. Cal Raleigh hit his Major League leading 59th and 60th home runs last night as Seattle clinched the American League West with a 9-2 win over the Rockies. His 59th was a solo shot in the first inning that made it to the upper deck, and his 60th was another solo home run in the eighth. With 4 games remaining in the Mariners' regular season, Raleigh has a chance to pass New York Yankees star Aaron Judge for the American League single-season home run record. He hit 62 in 22. That broke the previous record that was set by Roger Maris, which had been in place since 1961. Raleigh's homers came just 4 days after he passed Ken Griffey Jr. for the franchise's single-season home run record with his 57th. Junior Griffey hit 56 in both 1997 and 1998. Raleigh has also surpassed Mickey Mantle's previous record of 54 home runs by a switch hitter. That had been in place since 1961. Set the Major League record for home runs by a catcher this season, eclipsing 48 hit by Salvador Perez back in 2021. He has 4 home runs this year ahead of Phillies slugger Kyle Schwarber, 7 ahead of Shohei Ohtani with the Dodgers. For 175 days, the standings showed the Detroit Tigers having at least a share of first place in the American League Central until yesterday. The Cleveland Guardians, should still be the Indians, which were 15.5 games out of first in early July, took over sole possession of the top spot in the division with another come-from-behind win, sending the Tigers to their 8th consecutive loss. Since Major League Baseball went to division play in 1969, the biggest deficit overcome to win a division was 14 games by the Yankees. That was in 1978 when they won the American League East. By the way, the Guardians were 10.5 games back on September 1st. The Phillies have secured a first-round bye in the playoffs. Edmundo Sosa hit 3 of Philadelphia's team record 8 home runs. Kyle Schwarber had 2 to pad his National League lead, and the Phillies wrapped up a first-round bye with an 11-1 victory over the Miami Marlins last night, which brings us to Major League Baseball's standings with just a handful of games remaining. The Toronto Blue Jays and the New York Yankees are tied atop the American League East with records of 90 and 68. Cleveland now leads the AL Central by a game over Detroit. Seattle has won the West, 5 games in front of the Astros with 4 to play. The Phillies have clinched a playoff berth and won the division in the NL East. The Brewers have won the Central Division. The Cubs have clinched a playoff spot. And out west, the Dodgers and the Padres have both clinched a playoff spot, but neither has put a claim on the division crown. Got a couple more sports headlines for you when we come back. Our sports headlines brought to you by Pearl River Resort. Also a lottery update on the other side of this timeout. It's Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi.
From the
Grab another cup of coffee and start your day right. Mornings with Richard Cross here on Super Talk, Mississippi.
Your Mississippi Lottery Update is brought to you by the Mississippi Lottery. Find them online at mslottery.com. MSLottery.com. You had a Powerball drawing last night with no winner. MS Lottery is the website where you go to check out all of the numbers. You've got that big Mega Millions drawing that is coming up again on Friday night. So tomorrow night, over $400 million up for grabs with a cash value of 200 and hold on, I got it right here. $474 million is the jackpot. The cash value $219.4 million as well. Powerball's up to $145 million, and the cash value on that one is $67 million. The next drawing on Saturday. So a lot of opportunities to win. MSLottery.com is the website. Check them out online. It's the Mississippi Lottery. Ole Miss is expected to start Trinidad Chambliss for a third consecutive game in Saturday's showdown against LSU. That's according to Pete Thamel at ESPN. I think On3 was the first to report that. It'll be another start for Chambliss, replacing the injured Austin Simmons. Simmons suffered an ankle injury in the late stages of the September 6th game against Kentucky. He's not fully recovered, but is improving and expected to be available on Saturday. Chambliss has completed 68% of his passes for 719 yards and 4 touchdowns with no interceptions in his first 2 starts for the Rebels, who are 4-0, and enters Saturday's game with the 9th-ranked offense in all of college football. The senior has also rushed for 195 yards and a pair of scores. Could have his hands full. LSU's defense really good, 17th ranked overall, allowing 246 yards per game and just 9 points per game. It is going to be a good weekend of college football. For those that follow it closely, this is a weekend that people have been waiting for. In terms of games involving ranked teams, Florida State goes to Virginia. That's on Friday night. Florida State 3-0, coming off a bye, or an open date rather, and 8th in the country. Number 24, TCU, also 3-0. They head to Tempe on Friday night to take on Arizona State. The game's on Saturday involving ranked teams. Number 16, Georgia Tech, 4-0, is at Wake Forest. 21st ranked Southern Cal, also 4-0, is at number 23, Illinois. That's an 11 a.m. kickoff Central Time on Fox. And that's a week after having a 10 p.m. Central kickoff time for Southern Cal. So they are operating on both ends of the clock spectrum. Number 22, Notre Dame, who already has 2 losses this year, is at Arkansas. Razorbacks are 2-2 on the year. That game kicks off at 11 on ABC. Utah State is at number 18 and 4-0, Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt, a 23.5-point favorite in that game. Number 1, Ohio State, travels to the Pacific Northwest to take on the Washington Huskies. Ole Miss and LSU kicks at 2:30 on ABC. Auburn is at number 9, Texas A&M. Auburn trying to bounce back from the loss last week on the road against Oklahoma. Number 11, Indiana, who absolutely throttled Illinois last weekend, is at Iowa. In Starkville, it's a almost top 25 matchup. Number 15, Tennessee, is 3-1. Bulldogs 4-0 for the first time since 2014. Tennessee, a 7.5-point favorite in that game. Mississippi State just outside the top 25. At 6 on ESPN, Arizona is at number 14, Iowa State. The game that's gathering the most headlines this week, a top 6 matchup, a whiteout in Happy Valley. Number 6, Oregon. Number 3, Penn State. It will be loud. It'll also be loud in Athens when number 5, Georgia, off to a 3-0 start, hosts 2-1 and 17th-ranked Alabama. UMass is at number 20, Missouri. That's likely to be a blowout. And number 25, BYU, travels to Boulder to take on Colorado. BYU undefeated. Colorado 2-2 and 0-1 in the Big 12. So those are the games that are coming up this weekend.
Hey, I got a question for you.
Tell it.
Hey, 1.5. That's the line on the Mississippi Ole Miss LSU game. Ole Miss favorite. 54.5. Something seems off there. I mean, I don't know. I mean, both have good defenses, it seems. LSU's better. I don't have a problem with the 1.5, but 54.5, I don't know, man. What do you feel about that game?
So that's a game that's in the 30 to 20 range?
Yeah. But with both defenses, I mean, I just don't know, man. I don't know. Something just seemed a little off. Being this close to it, it seems like that line's going to stick pretty good. But I didn't know if you had a gut feeling on it.
Rebs by 1,000,000.
There we go. That's what I'm talking about.
Why not have that gut feeling? It's going to be quite the scene in Oxford. It's going to be quite the scene in Mississippi on Saturday. Sold out Davis Wade Stadium, sold out Vaught Hemingway Stadium. It's days like that where I'm like, you know, if there was only one school in Mississippi, how big would the stadium have to be?
That'd be a NASCAR stadium.
7 o'clock hour is on the way. We've got the news coming up. Then we will dive into news. And Senator Nicole Boyd will be by to visit with us this morning. Also, author and publisher Neil White going to join us in the 8 o'clock hour. It's Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi.
The views and opinions expressed by the hosts, guests, and callers on this show are not the opinions of TeleSouth Communications, its management, or advertisers.
Take a deep dive into the news and debates driving the day, all on your ride to work. Mornings with Richard Cross, Super Talk, Mississippi.
Well, we're moving on now. To the east side. To a deluxe apartment in the sky.
Not sure we've officially branded it. I mean, we have branded Wednesdays as Country Music Wednesdays, but Thursday feels like it's trending toward Lance's favorite TV shows from the 70s and 80s.
Yeah, well, you know.
Theme songs.
Got to have a bag.
Yeah, some of those are
Bag of
fun.
goodies. Yeah. Some of them are. I mean, you know, and others aren't quite as good, but like Hawaii Five-0 is always a good one. And
Yeah.
Magnum P.I. I'm actually enjoy playing around with some of those. I had one I made for Paul. It took the, you know, this is a young man on a journey. I took that out and I did the voiceover and reread it, and he loved it. We never played it on air, but yeah, he always used to get a kick out of that one.
May have to roll some A-Team in there.
I've already played A-Team this morning. Yeah, that's a first.
Have you? Did I miss
that's
that?
in the first segment, baby. That always is going to be A-Team and Flash Gordon. That's segment one. So
Dukes of Hazzard made an appearance last week.
yeah, definitely. I slip that one in anytime.
This hour of Mornings with Richard Cross is brought to you by MWG Employer Services. Running a business is tough. If you're struggling with HR, benefits, and payroll, you're not alone. That's where MWG Employer Services comes in. They can provide a full range of services to you with a custom plan that fits just you. Give them a call today at 601-206-7966 or go to MWGEmployerServices.com. Mentioned it before the break. Coming up, Senator Nicole Boyd, who represents District 9, Lafayette and Panola counties, is going to join us. She is chair of the Senate Universities and Colleges Committee, vice chair of the Senate Medicaid Committee. We'll get an update on what is going on with the opioid settlement process. And I've got some questions for her about colleges and universities, IHL, the role that they play, how money's being spent. We're going to get into all of that coming up this morning. And then Neil White, who is the creator of the Nautilus publishing company, he's an author as well, is going to join us. Got a bunch of books from different authors in Mississippi that are out. We'll talk about the publishing process and the editing process and the creativity process and balancing all of that. Neil's got an incredibly interesting story. He is the author of a number of books, including his first, I think, which was called In the Sanctuary of Outcasts.
If you've never read it, you better read. I've read it 3 times, man. It's absolutely chilling.
It's an incredible story, and we'll get Neil to maybe even take us back to that as well. A gunman fired upon a Dallas immigration field office from a nearby roof yesterday morning. That happened while we were on the air. We tried to update you as best we could at the time. Killed one detainee and critically wounded 2 others, and then took his own life in what authorities called an indiscriminate attack on U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, that is ICE. It's the second attack on a Dallas-based ICE facility since July, the third in the state of Texas. All 3 victims were in a van outside the facility at the time. DHS said authorities have said that they found ammunition with anti-ICE messaging engraved onto the casings at the scene. The attack is the latest public targeted killing in the U.S., comes 2 weeks to the day after conservative leader Charlie Kirk was killed by a rifle-wielding shooter on a roof in Utah. DHS Secretary Kristi Noem has ordered increased security at ICE facilities nationwide as a result of yesterday's attack. So what do we know at this point? The victims, all three were detainees. Officials have not released additional information about their identities. Mexico's Foreign Affairs Ministry said that one of the wounded was from Mexico and was hospitalized with serious injuries. The consulate has reached out to the family to offer support and legal help. The initial thought was that 2 victims were dead, but issued a correction later saying 1 was dead, 2 were critically injured. No law enforcement officers were injured. What about the shooter? Well, authorities have not officially released the name or the identity of the shooter, but a law enforcement official, on the condition of anonymity, said it was a 29-year-old by the name of Joshua Jahn, Jahn. FBI agents could be seen Wednesday afternoon at a house in suburban Dallas that public records linked to John. He briefly worked at a Texas-based solar company and in the marijuana industry, including a stint in Washington in 2017. In 2016, John pleaded guilty to felony charges of marijuana delivery, according to court records in Collin County, Texas. We know that the gunman used a bolt-action rifle, according to law enforcement officials. Hours later, authorities were hours after the shooting, were on top of a law office building near the ICE facility. I think I read that it was the law office of a civil rights attorney. A white van from the medical examiner's office arrived on the scene and could be seen removing a black bag that presumably had a body in it, the body of the shooter. What about motive? Well, we don't officially know, but when Kash Patel released a photo on social media showing a bullet with the inscription anti-ICE written on it, we can use our brains to come up with a motive. Now, there are a lot of people that are not using their brain. Well, we know nothing about the shooting. By the way, bullet casing inscription seems to be the newest copycat phenomenon within these shootings. Trisha McLaughlin at DHS posted photos showing bullet holes in a window and a glass case holding an American flag. Kristi Noem said this vile attack was motivated by hatred for ICE. Senator Ted Cruz of Texas said this is the third shooting in Texas directed at ICE or Border Patrol. This must stop. To every politician who is using rhetoric demonizing ICE and demonizing CBP, stop. To every politician demanding that ICE agents be doxxed and calling for people to go after their families, stop. This has real consequences. Here's the thing. We get this conversation about the violent rhetoric. We played Kamala Harris for you yesterday, where she says the violent rhetoric has to stop before immediately calling Donald Trump a tyrant and a communist dictator. Hillary Clinton was on Morning Joe with Joe and Mika yesterday and said the violence has got to stop, but let's be honest, the hateful rhetoric is coming from the right. She also went on in the same interview to blame white Christian men largely for where we are as a country. This is going to sound cold. And the right certainly carries its fair share of blame for where we are politically. They do. The Trump administration says things all the time that inflame the rhetoric. But the blood on the hands belongs to the left. How many times can you call people you don't like Nazis, fascists, racists, misogynists, Islamophobes, all the isms and all the ists before people decide to take matters into their own hands? Oh, well, that's a racist. I'm going to eliminate him. Oh, that's a Islamophobe. We got to eliminate him. I will admit that the right plays a role in the hateful rhetoric that exists in the United States. But it's not people from the right that are carrying out these attacks and killing people, murdering people in the most cowardly ways possible. I mean, nobody's willing to say, you know what, I don't like you. I don't want you like what you stand for. Let's fight. Nobody does that. It's no, let me get a gun. And let me hide out 300 yards away, 500 yards away, 700 yards away, and take a pot shot. I don't know that the blame game really accomplishes anything, but I'm on the verge of just being weary of both sides carry the blame. I will admit that some of what is said from the right is not helpful. But in terms of the violence, it's coming from the left over and over and over. But the left is certainly not owning it. We're back with you right after this, MRC.
From Duck Hill to Alligator, Mississippians start their day the right way. Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi.
Good to be with you. Mornings with Richard Cross, Super Talk, Mississippi. Thanks for joining us. The C Spire text line is open. 601-879-4395. That's the number if you want to join the conversation. Again, 601-879-4395. In sports and business, having the right team behind you matters. Partner with C Spire today for business solutions from dedicated, certified IT engineers. Learn more at cspire.com. C-Spire, inspired by you. First guest this morning, we are glad to be joined by Senator Nicole Akins-Boyd. She represents District 9. That's part of Lafayette County and Panola County. Joins us in studio in Jackson. She is chair of the Senate Universities and Colleges Committee. Senator, good morning.
Good morning. It's always a good morning when you get let in with the theme song of Dallas. You got to love that. So
that's big time. That was just for you by Lance.
I did save that just for her. So,
I love it.
Good. I'm glad you like that one. It's an old recording. I'm sorry it's poppy, but
I love it. I think it sounds great.
You were in Jackson, have had meetings going on this week. We'll get into some of those coming up in just a bit. But let's start with opioid settlement discussion. We talked a few weeks ago about that process. How is it moving forward?
They closed the application process last week, and there was 126 applicants. So what the committee will do now is they are breaking apart in subgroups. We have the applications that we are all scoring and looking at those applications, and then we'll be meeting back to look at that whole list, and we will make recommendations then to the legislature on priority funding of those proposals that we look at.
And how much money is it we're distributing? $75 million?
Yeah, I think we're looking at roughly about $75 million. So we'll be looking at all of that, and I think I have heard there are some incredible proposals, really broad-based in what they're looking at, so that we can really tackle and address this problem in a comprehensive manner. And I'm really, there's been some articles lately in a couple of the papers. I'm thrilled with the process we're using, because I think we're putting together all of our experts in our state that really can look at this problem from a comprehensive outlook, and we can get the most efficient use of those dollars to really tackle this problem in a comprehensive manner. So.
There's so many ways that you can go about this, and I know you're just now kind of going through the proposals. Are some of those from organizations that are tied to either college campuses or high schools?
I have been told that we all are broken down in different committees with that. So I think mine is the Family Services Committee. So I'm going to be looking proposals that really look at family issues and those. And so they're broken down in a number of different areas. I have heard that there are proposals that really are looking at services on our college campuses and surveillance on our college campus. So I met somebody last night who they said they had put one in regards to really looking at surveillance issues so that we can really know what's going on these campuses. And I think that's very important.
You said 126 proposals. Is that a number that is bigger than you expected, smaller? Is that kind of what you were hoping for? I mean, I'm assuming you would want a broad-based at least application pool to decide how this money gets allocated.
It's kind of what I had expected. I did work years ago kind of in grants and applications and things like that. And so I think you have really small organizations to large organizations that have looked at this. I've heard that there's, very comprehensive proposals from even members of our court systems and that are kind of broad-based and statewide. So I think you have organizations that have applied that serve just small communities to ones that will look at a statewide breadth and reach. So I'm very excited to see kind of what all of these proposals look like.
So this is one of the hats that you are wearing. Another hat that you're wearing that seems to be taking up a lot of time is the Senate Universities and Colleges Committee. I want to start here, and this, you can tell me this is out of left field and we need to go a different direction, and that's fine, but I have heard for a while now from different people, and it's kind of hard to find the numbers, to be honestly, so we've got 8 public universities in the state of Mississippi, and they are funded in very different ways, that there are schools that get significantly more money per student than other schools. And in particular, I've heard that Mississippi State and Ole Miss are at the lower end of the spectrum, despite the fact that they get more students and they're producing more than some of the smaller schools are in the state, and yet they are getting considerably less money per student. Can you shine some light on that?
Yeah, and I'll tell you, this is something we've been looking at in the legislature when we came at the beginning of our this last term. We held hearings with the House and the Senate. There were joint hearings, and I worked very closely with my colleague in the House, Donnie Scoggins, who's the chair of universities and colleges over there. And so we held hearings on this, and it became apparent that there was a wide discrepancy what that per pupil funding was. So we started looking at IHL and how it's funded. We've asked IHL to look at this too, but basically, since according to a report that they released in May of 2005 this year, and we knew this from looking at this. They have been funded.
Sorry, May of 2025.
Yeah, May of 2025.
Okay.
They have been funded mainly through a base plus approach. So everybody was held harmless, and then maybe they got some more added to it. And so that did not account for declining enrollments or increasing enrollments, really. And so those adjustments really were not based on institutional need or enrollment numbers or achievement. And so one of the things that the legislature has been focused on, and we talked about it, and we actually had hearings. The College Board, we have told them that we are very interested in this, and this is what this is supposed to be moving to, is we want to see a performance-based model. We know that we have been very successful with our Department of Education and what they have done, really looking at performance metrics, and they have been doing this for quite some time now in the Department of Education. We literally have gone to 48th to 16th. And that's an astonishing thing. And if you look at how that we've made that change in those trajectories and how we've increased those reading scores and how we've increased all those high school things, you will see it is because of performance-based metrics. And the Department of Education, they've been successful, but they are still looking at increasing accountability models, making sure that the students are getting the highest performance that they can, and that we're getting that from students, because that's in the best interest of Mississippi that we do this. And so we have looked at this in regards to higher education, and we've got about 32 states right now that really have some aspect of a performance-based model within their funding. And we've been looking across the country at what those metrics are in the legislature, trying to make sure that we are that we will be looking at that. And the legislature is actually holding hearings December 8th and 9th, or having Senate and House hearings in regards to that. And we're going to be looking at those across the country, because we've got to get more efficient for those use of higher education dollars. About 16% of the state's budget is in higher education. So that's
16% of a
$7 billion budget is in higher education. And so we want to make
sure. So that's roughly $1 billion?
I'll come back with exact numbers. So I'll often say I don't do but it's a huge amount of money. And when you look at overall spending with that, so it's not quite $1 billion, but anyway, we are looking to make sure that we are efficient in those dollars in everything that we do. And so some of the things that we know, too, the challenges facing higher ed right now is we are facing an enrollment cliff that really starts. It's really been a slight going on, and then we know that this really hits in the fall of next year. You see declining populations across. So we have 8 universities across the state, and they are facing declining populations. And how is it they are going to best perform their missions with those declining population? And how are they going to be financially sound? So we really want to look at 2 aspects that we really want to see is what's your financial soundness, and then what are the performance metrics, because we have vastly different performance metrics from our universities right now. We have 4-year graduation rates that range from 18 to 52%. That's a huge spectrum. And we do have some very high performing universities, so I don't want people to think our whole system is messed up. We have some very high performers. 6-year graduation rates from 27 to 68. And so we've got all these different metrics that we really need to look at, but there's some other things that we need to look at as well. So,
all right, let's pick that up on the other side of this break. And I'm going to ask you, and I don't know if you've got the numbers handy, what are those dollar amounts that are allocated per student at the universities? We'll look at that. We'll also talk a little bit about what the funding model is currently. How are the dollars allocated currently by the IHL, and where does that money come from? What power does the legislature have? We'll get to that on the other side of the break. Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk Mississippi. Nicole Akins-Boyd, Senator and Chair of the Universities and Colleges Committee. Committee. I think that was an extra syllable there. We're back with you right after this. More MRC.
From the Seabrook.com.
With Richard Cross is brought to you by Covington County Hospital in Collins, where your health matters.
Good morning, Mississippi. You're starting your day off right.
Welcome to
Mornings with Richard Cross here on Super Talk, Mississippi.
Thanks for joining us. Mornings with Richard Cross. Lance is having too much fun behind the wheel. He's driving fast this morning. Glad to have you along. C-Spire text line open 601-879-4395. Senator Nicole Boyd is my guest. She represents District 9, Lafayette County, and parts of Panola County. She's chair of the State Universities and Colleges Committee in the Senate. And I mentioned before the break, I feel like we need to assign numbers because it's one thing to kind of talk in the abstract when you go, well, per student funding is there is a variance between schools. What is that variance? What are we talking about when we talk Ole Miss, Mississippi State compared to Delta State, Mississippi Valley State?
So I won't go through them individually, but I can tell you here's the, and you're right, the numbers are very hard to get. And if you get them from multiple people, they will say multiple things. But generally, when you look at those in the abstract of what everyone can agree is, you're looking at about a $4,000 to $5,000 difference between a student at Mississippi State and Ole Miss versus what some of the other universities are getting per student.
$4,000 to $5,000 less per student?
Yes. And so that's very different than our community colleges, where our community colleges are funded by student. So, if you get $1 for a student at Hines Community College, you're going to get the same dollar. You're going to get $1 for the student at Northwest Community College. Now, what most people do across the country is when they look at students and reimbursement, they look at majors, they look at high priority majors, things that are important to the workforce in the state. And they give extra incentive. If you graduate a nursing student, if you graduate something that is a needed skill in that state, there are bonuses that you will get more per student. Also, sometimes it has to do with the cost of educating that student. Like if it's a particular thing that costs more money to do, they will, and it's something that the state needs. You've seen around the country where they give extra incentives for those. And it is very workforce driven. Right now, we're not as workforce driven as we need to be. And so that's one of the things that we want to look at in a new formula, is something that really where we drive workforce in the state and look at the needs of the state and make sure that our universities and colleges are really producing the students that are needed for the workforce and the challenges of our state. We know that AI and all technology is going to be a huge aspect in our growing job sector across the state. And so we want to make sure that we are looking at really making sure that we have a workforce that can supply that. And that's part of really looking at this comprehensively. Many of the performance-based models across the state really are very aligned with their workforce, and they are producing that. So there's some other things, too, that are, as we're looking to this, too, that are...
Hold on, just say, I'm sorry to interrupt. I'm still hung up on this $4,000 to $5,000 difference per student. So you've got Ole Miss and Mississippi State with enrollments north of 20,000. And I understand that there's maybe an operating cost that has to go into this. But how is the deficit so big for the state's two largest universities? You're talking about the flagship university, the land-grant university, and how are these funds allocated? So the legislature says this is the money
for IHL.
For IHL. But then IHL allocates those funds as they see fit?
So IHL does allocate those monies. And so
based on what?
Based on, right now, they've used this cost-based approach since basically 2012. So they did put, back in 2012, they really did do a performance-based budgeting model. But that model has not been implemented. They said it was implemented 2 years. I'm not sure about that. But it has not been implemented with integrity. And so right now, according to this report from NCHIMPS that came out in May 2nd of 2025, it states that the institutions have been funded mainly through a base plus approach. And so they use that base from 2012, everybody was held harmless, and that their funding was based on the amount that the institution receives the year before. And then there were some slight adjustments made on maybe a budgetary capacity, but there was not anything done on institutional need, on enrollment. That report really states that. This is their report. And so we know that basically it has been on this cost-based approach, and it has continued on basically since 2012. So this is, of great concern to the legislature. IHL has commissioned somebody to really look at a performance-based model. But the legislature is really pushing on this because we want to see IHL, we want to see these metrics improving. Right now, we have a population of only about 26% of our population in Mississippi has a bachelor's degree of some type. Okay. And so that is a great deal lower than we need for our workforce. And so we want to see an improvement in that. The state, through all the different organizations, business institutions, and all that, has a goal of 55% of some type of degree or certificate by 2030. And there'll be, I'm sure, people coming in here talking about that conference that's coming up and those goals. And so we need improved metrics and really getting our population more educated. And so we know we have this enrollment cliff coming up. We know that our universities and colleges mainly rely on students coming from high school as opposed to really looking at that adult ed population. This is what this report kind of looks at. And so we've got to see a performance-driven model where we really make sure that we are getting kids across the finish line. Here's the stat, though, that keeps me up at night. We are number one in the country, in the state, of making sure that we get kids from high school to some college entrance program, whether it be a community college or whether it be an IHL institution. After that first year, that number drops weird to 38th in the country.
In terms of finishing a program?
In terms of finishing...
Or just coming back for year two?
Just coming back for year two.
So retention is an issue.
So retention is a huge issue. And we've got some universities that are doing an incredible job at retention. They're very high performing on that. But what really should keep us up at night, this is one of the facts. We are known as the worst state in the country for student loan debt. And so 15.9%, almost 16% of our population carries student loan debt. What we've done to a student, a young person, is that we have put them in a system that was either the system wasn't prepared, the child wasn't prepared, probably a combination of both. We have encouraged them to incur the student loan debt because we have a high amount of our college students that are on Pell Grants and other loans and all of that. So they've now incurred this debt, but there's no degree. They're a dropout at that level. And so we've got to stop these practices. We've got to make sure that when we get these kids in school, that we can matriculate them through the process so that they actually graduate with a degree, because we've done them a lot more harm if they are graduating now with debt, or not graduating, if they are leaving the university, not completing a degree, and they've got that much debt. Yeah. Those are the things that really should keep us up at night as a state, because now they are in a workforce that they have student loan debt, they don't have, this additional education. And look, we know that it is more difficult to get a student that has, we have a high Pell Grant rate here in the state. We know that we have economically challenged students in the state, and we know that they are much more of a challenge to get through. And we are wanting to see a model that really that rewards universities when they get these students through, because the students have other challenges, economics at home, other issues really that are challenging them, and they're going to take a little bit longer to get through. But that's what we've got to do. If we're going to move this state forward in job development and workforce, we've got to make sure that we're putting the right students into the IHL system, and then we've got to make sure that when we get them in that system, that they're finishing.
Yeah. Let me ask you this, and this is philosophical in nature, and I guess if you've got time to hang for the next break, we can talk about this a little bit more, because this is kind of a loaded question. There's no question that the college and university system is vitally important to the state of Mississippi. And I'm almost setting the community college system separately, because I feel like, we talk about community colleges a lot, and it feels like that they are excelling and they are achieving kind of the mission that they are in place to be. It's either get students ready to make the step to a 4-year or be ready to enter the workforce. And it feels like that's happening at a pretty high level. But when you talk about graduation rates being low, when you talk about 8 schools at the college and university level, and Mississippi State and Ole Miss, the two biggest, at a $4,000 to $5,000 per student deficit to other universities, are we operating a welfare system within the college and university structure where you have two high-performing institutions that are having to carry the weight of the other 6? And is that hampering them from being the best that they can be? So that's a big question. I'll let you answer that on the other side of the break. Mornings with Richard Cross. SuperTalk Mississippi, streaming at supertalk.fm and SuperTalk TV.
From the Want to know what's being said in the halls of the Capitol? You're in the right place. Mornings with Richard Cross continues on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Back with you on Mornings with Richard Cross. Nicole Akins-Boyd, Senator representing District 9. She's chair of the Universities and Colleges Committee in the Senate. Appreciate you staying over for one last segment. I realize I dropped kind of a bomb there as we were going to break, but I think it's a legitimate question when you talk about 8 schools in the state and you talk about the deficit that Mississippi State and Ole Miss have in terms of per student allocations, and then you talk about graduation rates at the bottom end of the spectrum and schools that financially might not be able to support themselves. Are Ole Miss and Mississippi State the benefactors to the rest of the state and a de facto welfare program for those schools that can't stand on their own 2 feet otherwise?
Well, and let me say this too. Mississippi State and Ole Miss receive less per student. They also, though, are they do have more out-of-state students, and that is helping fund those universities. But I just want to say, look, the numbers kind of tell a story, and I can see where you could draw some of those conclusions, but we do have some significant work that is going on around at a number of our IHL institutions.
Absolutely.
And so I saw some really great presentations last week. The College Board did invite me to come attend their retreat where all the chiefs of the university did present, and I saw some tremendous work from Southern Mississippi of what they are doing to really make sure that they are being very efficient with the majors that they're offering. Also, to their what they've done to make sure that they are increasing that first to second year dropout rate and making sure that they're getting students across the finish line. And they've done some tremendous work in that. I saw some really interesting things that were going on at Alcorn, where they're really digging down in those numbers and doing that. You saw Delta State, which did a very, very impressive deep dive into their majors, what it was costing them, and really putting that university on a much better financial path than they had been. So there's some really amazing things that are going on in a number of these places. And I do think, too, it's very important for people to realize, too, our universities do have different missions. For example, Jackson State here, and they have an interim president right now who's doing an amazing job, but they're an urban university, and it very much has an impact in this Jackson area. So you see things across the state that these are universities, but what we've got to do is we've got to make sure that we are measuring for performance. We can't just have some arbitrary base cost thing. We've got to make sure that we are measuring for performance and really looking at our universities.
So that you are rewarded for success.
Exactly. And right now, that is not the way the system is set up.
So is the IHL open to adopting a performance-based funding model?
Yes, they are looking at a performance-based budgeting model. The legislature is looking at this so that we're all on the same page as to what this looks like. But, we need to make sure that performance is driven and it's rewarded, and that this performance is aligned with what the state's workforce needs are. And those are all integral pieces. And so that's what we're saying is we've got to perform, and we've got to perform better. And this is what funding should be equated to, is looking at performance levels.
What level of oversight from the legislature exists with IHL. I mean, I know that the IHL is a constitutionally created entity, and the legislature allocates money to the IHL, and then it sounds like they spend it as they see fit. How much oversight does the legislature have on those actual allocations to individual universities?
We are the appropriating. I mean, the legislature, it always people, for years before even entered the legislature holds the purse.
Sure.
So we are the appropriating authority.
But you write the big check.
We write
them,
the big
but I'm
check.
talking about
But
how they distribute the money.
Yeah, but the legislature is very much can look at the performance of what those institutions are doing, just like, and that's the things we want to see. We want to see that this board is actually measuring and demanding performance at every level from these universities, and that these universities are financially sound. And so we want to see this performance be driven. And so that's what the legislature is really looking at. And we don't talk about it a lot, but we're looking at it across lots of different entities and agencies. And you see that when the legislature did this a number of years ago, my predecessor, Gray Tollison, was a huge part of this too, is really looking at education and how we account for those dollars. And that's the largest use of our state funds is our K through 12 funds. It's the largest portion of our state budget. And so what we see, and we had the state superintendent testify yesterday before us of what all they're doing to make sure that we are getting the most use of our dollars in the most effective way. And that's what we have to do in a small state with not a lot of revenue. We've got to make sure every dollar and every penny is spent to where it is going to create high performance.
You got to get the most bang for your buck.
Absolutely. So that's what we're doing with this, and that's what we're going to continue to hear.
Glad to hear that this is a conversation that is not going away. Senator Nicole Akins-Boyd, thanks so much for your time this morning. Always enjoy the conversations.
Thank you.
We'll continue to talk about this with you. We'll get your reaction on the C Spire text line. Coming up to start the 8 o'clock hour, author and publisher Neil White from Nautilus Publishing Company will join us. More MRC with you after the news.
You'll get the inside track on Mississippi politics. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi.
8 o'clock hour. Thanks for joining us on this Thursday morning. Weekend just around the corner. A big football weekend in the state of Mississippi. You've got Mississippi State at home hosting Tennessee, Southern Miss at home hosting Jacksonville State, and Ole Miss hosting LSU this weekend as well. We remind you that football Friday nights in Oxford keep rolling. Tomorrow night at the Lyric, get ready for an old-fashioned hall party featuring the 9-piece funk powerhouse, 5-Star Funk Lounge. It's the hall party this Friday at the Lyric, presented by Ratchet Entertainment, sponsored by SuperTalk Mississippi and the Grove Collective. You can get your tickets at OleMissConcerts.com. Both general admission and VIP tickets still available. That's OleMissConcerts.com. We're going to put a pin in the conversation with Nicole Boyd and come back to that, because I am still stuck on some of those funding numbers, and we've got a lot to talk about in the coming days and weeks with regard to IHL. But right now, Neil White joins us. He is an author. He is a publisher. He is the creator of the Nautilus Publishing Company, which is based in the thriving metropolis of Taylor, Mississippi, just south of Oxford. Neil, good morning. Thanks so much for a few minutes of your time.
Happy to be here, Richard. Thanks for having me on.
So your story is such a fascinating one. I'll start with the book that I think most people know you for, at least from an author standpoint, In the Sanctuary of Outcasts. I'm trying to think the best way to describe that book, and I think I'd be better off to say, how do you describe that book? Is it a memoir? Is it an autobiography? Is it? I feel like there's some novel elements to it.
Well, it's a memoir, and I've discovered, when I was just working on writing it, I discovered this group called Creative Nonfiction, and what they do is they advocate telling a true story using the techniques of a novel. dialogue, action description, so that the reader feels like they're in the room with the narrator, the character. And so it's a true story. It's a memoir, but I use those techniques so it reads like a novel.
I highly recommend, if you have not read In the Sanctuary of Outcasts. How long has that been out now? Has it been 20 years?
A long time. It's over 16 years now.
Wow. So closing in.
And I wrote it 15 years after the event. So, it's half my life ago that actually went on.
Well, it is a story of self-growth and ownership and a whole lot of other themes. I don't want to spoil too much of the book, but if you haven't read that, you certainly should do that. But you've done a lot since In the Sanctuary of Outcasts, both as an author yourself, as a publisher, as an editor. We have had two of your most recent authors on in the last couple of months. The Dean, Sparky Reardon, an incredible collection of stories from his time at Ole Miss, and then Chase Parham was on with us just last week. Chase and Jeff Robertson with the stories from Ole Miss baseball. So let's talk individually about those books a little bit.
Sure.
I know that whether you're talking about through Facebook comments or conversations, there were a lot of people that for a long time had been encouraging Sparky Reardon to write a book. You're the one that got him to do it. How did that happen?
Well, to be honest with you, he had most of it written before we ever spoke. And the publishing world is like anything else. The first question I wish I had to ask is this book great? But the first question you have to ask is this book marketable? Can we make some money on it? And then if it's great, you can publish it. And, Sparky Reardon probably knows between 30 and 50,000 people by name. And based on his tenure and his recognition of that name, Sparky, and being Dean of Students, I would venture to say 200,000 people know him by name. And so whether or not we could market this book was a no-brainer. It's the easiest decision I've ever made. Then we were driving to Clarksdale. He was helping me navigate a book I'm working on in the Delta. And he started telling me about these stories, and he sent me the manuscript, and it exceeded my expectation. He's a great writer, and it is just selling like crazy. So we're happy for Sparky and for the bookstores.
Yeah, no question about that. How do you measure success for a book that you publish, that you have either edited or helped the authors along the way? Because I know the easiest answer is, well, we got to sell a lot of books. But how do you really measure that?
Well, it depends. I mean, it's great if we sell these, but sometimes we publish books that we know we're not going to make any money on, that are just important stories. We just did that this spring with a book called Badge Unbroken, and it was about an African-American police officer in Tupelo who prevented a black teenager from being accosted by an attack dog that two white officers were using. This happened in the 90s. And they set out to ruin his life. And, it's a powerful story. It's an important story. We're not going to sell 100,000 copies of the book, but we needed to do it. Same thing with a book that we published called Journey to a River, about the Tennessee Tom Bigby and its history and all the political shenanigans that went along with that. Those are not going to be big selling books, but they're important books. So the measure of success for me is, we've got to publish books that make money so that we can continue to be in business, but we also publish books that are just important to be out there.
Neil, it's fascinating to me the different types of books that you're involved with, because you've been involved with novels, you've been involved with did you say creative fiction or creative nonfiction? Is that the way you described it?
Creative nonfiction.
Business books, obviously in a university town, you have lots of professors that want to publish some of their work. And then there's this different type of book that I think the stories from Ole Miss baseball falls into. It's I don't know if coffee table book is the right way to describe it. It's a book that you don't have to pick up and read from beginning to end in one setting or a short amount of time. You can kind of flip through it. You did that with the Ole Miss football book a couple of years ago as well. How do you approach those differently than maybe a book that is a novel or is a continuous story?
Yeah, well, what we look for is unfortunately, there's still people who read books voraciously, but we live in a world of skimmers, and people like to open a book and get something out of it in 2 minutes and be satisfied. And that's what this book, the Stories from Ole Miss Baseball, is about. It's probably 90 to 100 very short snippets, fascinating stories, behind the scenes stories about Ole Miss baseball that, nobody but the most rabid fan would know. And so it's such a fun book. And Jeff Roberson knew more of the history and up through the 90s, and then Chase Parham came in with some of the modern stuff, and the two of them just made a great team. And boy, tomorrow at noon we're having an epic signing. The great thing about a coffee table book is it's a gift book. You want it out there. So tomorrow at Off Square Books, we've got Robert Kayat, Jake Gibbs, Donnie Kessinger, Brad Henderson, Will Allen, Hunter Elliott, and the authors, all there signing books, along with Buddy Chain, who still holds the record for the College World Series, and a bunch of other guys. John Shaw, who was Archie's teammate, and they would do double steals. So it's going to be a lot of fun. And they're all there to sign books for people who want to give them for Christmas gifts or birthdays. So, that's the coffee table world.
Yeah. And I think that's 11 to 1. Is that right? Tomorrow? Is it
11 to 1 tomorrow at Off Square Books. Yeah.
So a lot of people going to be in town for the weekend. Feels like that probably was a good time to have folks coming in that may be in or around the square, making a special trip for it. I'm curious about the world of audiobooks. I love to hold a book in my hand and turn pages, but honestly, with 3 young children and travel schedules, that doesn't really lend itself. And I have found myself a voracious user of Audible. How has the world of audiobooks, one, do I get credit for reading a book if I listen to it? And two, how has it changed the publishing world? Because that's part of the process, isn't it?
It is. First, you do get credit for listening to a book for 5 or 6 hours. Absolutely.
Right,
absolutely. And 10 years ago, audiobooks, unless you were a national bestseller, really weren't worth the investment that it takes to record it. It's dozens, if not hundreds of hours to read it perfectly, and you've got to have talent and perfect sound. But now we just finished recording Sparky's book, and he read it. I think he spent about 80 hours in the studio to get it done. And so we'll release that, but it's a new day, and you have to be in that realm. People travel, people walk around with pods in their ears, and that's just part of the world we live in.
Yeah. Is it a good part of the world?
It's really expensive, and it's really time consuming, but it's worth it. Yeah, it's a good part. It's a good part. We've yet to make a lot of money on one.
That's fair enough. And it is a publishing company, and ultimately that is the name of the game. It's the Nautilus Publishing Company, headquartered in Taylor, Mississippi. You got a couple of minutes to hang with me through the break?
Sure, absolutely.
Neil White is my guest. He is an editor, he is an author, he is a publisher, and we'll talk about some of the projects that are going on, and a little bit more about his story on the other side. It's Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk Mississippi. Glad to be with you on this Thursday. Quick timeout. We're back right after this.
Mississippi in the know, one morning at a time. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Now this is a story all about how my life got flipped, turned upside down, and I'd like to take a minute, just sit right there. I'll tell you how I became the prince
all right,
of
so
the
we've
town
gone from
called Bel Air.
70s and 80s classics to The Fresh Prince. Will Smith's birthday today. Lance, I realized during the break that I've got quite the collection of Nautilus publishing books. So a couple of the Robert Kayat books, the Education of a Lifetime, and then 60, which was sports, race, and politics, all rolled into one. Neil's original book, In the Sanctuary of Outcasts, and then I've got the football book and the baseball book. How do people get books still? I know you're a huge proponent of independent bookstores, especially here in Mississippi. we have such a treasure of bookstores. Is that the best way?
Absolutely. If it's convenient, I guess you could go to Amazon, but it's easy to order from the bookstores online as well. So when we do our marketing and promotion, we typically include a link to one of the independent bookstores or a couple of them: Square Books, Lemuria, Reed's, Pass Christian Books. The list just goes on and on and on. And so I would encourage everyone to take just a couple of seconds more and order it online from one of those bookstores, or go in and browse. Ask those booksellers what's fun to read, what's new and that's out, that's exciting. That's the thing you get at an independent bookstore that you don't get from a company run by a computer. They've actually read the books and they can tell you about them and about the authors. And it is one of the great things about this state. It really is.
There's no question. Sometimes people are uncomfortable talking about money. I don't mean to put you in that spot, but with a state that has a writing history as rich as the state of Mississippi, there are a lot of people out there that perhaps have written something that they would call a book. They've got a manuscript, or want to write a book, or have an idea. And we hear about self-publishing sometimes, and obviously publishing companies. What does it cost if you're just random citizen of Mississippi that lives in, I don't know, Winona, that wants to write a book, and you got to self-publish, or you go to work with you at Nautilus? What does it cost somebody to do that?
Yeah, well, there are a lot of self-publishing outfits out there, and most of them are not very good, and you would waste your money doing it. So I would recommend, before you dive in, to go to a publishing workshop or get some education on the matter. But there are a lot of platforms now with print on demand if you can't get a traditional publisher to work with you. And that's a high bar, because there are all these hoops you have to jump through. But you can actually self-publish a book and make it available to the entire English-speaking world with no cost to you. And every time somebody buys it, no cost to you for the publishing component. But what you do need to pay for is a great editor, a great copy editor, a designer, and someone who can set you up on these platforms. And then if you do that, your book is available to everybody. The problem is the book good enough to draw an audience, and do you know how to market the book well enough? And that's where most people fall. There's a great story from John Evans at Lemuria Bookstore about a self-published author. He took one of his books and it didn't sell, and it didn't sell, and it didn't sell. And he called and complained, and one of John's employees said, "I'm not in charge of your marketing." And he said, "Well, who is?" It's like people don't understand how it works, and it is a little counterintuitive. I was lucky in the Sanctuary of Outcast. For 2 years, I worked with HarperCollins, the second largest book publisher in America, and I watched what they did. I'd never published a book, consumer book, before that. Watched what they did, how they operated, the things they put into place, and I thought, hell, I can do that, on a small scale. So we just took that model and brought it to Mississippi and to the South.
Well, it certainly has been an incredible story. Talk to me a little bit about the editing process. I think back to high school and college, writing papers and term papers, and it wasn't so much writing the paper that was the arduous part. It was the going back and, spelling, run-on sentences, proper use of commas and semicolons and colons. And I give my mom, whose birthday is today, a lot of credit, because she made me sit with her in her office for papers that I had to turn in school. And we went through it. And it was this miserable, painstaking process. But it taught me to write, and it taught me how to write much better than I ever would have otherwise. What does the editing process look like on a 100, 200, 300, 500-page book?
Well, it's grueling. It really is. And there are really two stages of editing. What you're talking about is copy editing, and as many good eyes as you can get on it. That's great, because ellipses, do they have spaces between each one? Is "the" in the Clarion Ledger italicized or just Clarion Ledger? At every sentence, there's some issue to arise, and we have some grammar nerds we call in and sit around a table for a weekend and pay them to help us walk through all that sort of thing. But the real editing, and and it's rare to have somebody to do it, is the story edit, where somebody can read that book and say, that character may be interesting to you, but he's not important to move the story forward. Move this piece to the beginning and let it hang there so people will keep turning the page to see what happens. That's where the real magic happens. And then the polishing is important, obviously, because you don't want somebody reading a book going, there's a comma splice, they didn't capitalize this, they misspelled this word. But those are two very different skill sets. I'm not very good at the latter. I believe, like Andrew Jackson, it's a narrow-minded fellow who can't think of but one way to spell a word. But, but I have great people who take care of that.
That's outstanding. One of I was kind of looking through your website and some of the materials that you've got, and there was a story that jumped out at me, or a book that jumped out at me. And this, I think, is what I was talking about when I said they're talented people all over that have writing in them. Ken Sufka, professor on the Ole Miss campus, is one of the most brilliant people I have ever been around. Now, I was not ever in any of his classes. I was not on that track, but my wife had him, raved about him as a professor. My younger brother worked under him in a master's program and really is one of the great minds. And this is a different type of book, an educational book, but one that is targeted toward college students. How do you make that work in this, I sound old when I say this, TikTok, X, Instagram, quick bite, short attention span world of college students?
Well, first of all, thanks for asking. This is our best-selling book of all time. We've sold almost 250,000 copies of this book.
Are you serious?
And yes, I'm not kidding. And
the name of the book is The A Game: 9 Steps to Better Grades by Kenneth J. Sufka, PhD. And if there was something more than doctor that you could call him, you should.
There should be 10 sets of letters after him. So he came up, he took a sabbatical, and he had studied poor student behavior for 20 years. And he came up with this short manuscript. Most freshmen coming into college, if you buy a book on how to be successful, it's this thick. I mean, it's 3 inches thick. This is 72 pages. It's remarkably accessible. Every chapter is 4 or 5 pages. And so we did this, and it really caught fire with the student success people. And so I went to Ken and said, let's don't sell this for $12 each. Let's sell this book for $3 a copy if universities will give it to every entering freshman free. And then we changed the color. So when Oregon does it, this triangle is green. And it's got their logo on it. So UNLV, Oregon, Ole Miss, Texas Tech, Virginia Commonwealth have all bought into this program. So the reason we've sold so many books is they're not buying one at a time. They're buying 7,000, 10,000, 8,000 at a time to give the book away free. And Ole Miss has done it every year, and their retention rate has gone up every year since they've started doing it.
Has there been student feedback that, hey, I actually applied the principles from this book and it worked?
Absolutely. Dozens, hundreds have called Ken about it. Absolutely.
Is it something that's applicable for pre-college? I mean, if you hand this to a high school student, does it help them at that level?
Absolutely. It is designed for the entering freshman. Now, the last 3 chapters would help somebody in law school or accountancy or pharmacy because it's real high level advanced. But the first, there are 9 chapters. The first 3 are for, a student who's happy with a C, but isn't making a C. And the second is for those who want to make a B. And the third is for that, type A personality who wants to be a professor, how to really test well, how to prepare, notation reduction, concept mapping. And Ken has distilled it down to a quarter of an inch.
My 15-year-old daughter that is a sophomore in high school is going to be thrilled to know about her next reading assignment. That is outstanding. Neil, continued success. It really is a great success story, the Nautilus Publishing Company, and all the best to all of your authors as they try to sell books.
Thanks so much, Richard. Appreciate you having us on. Thanks for all you do.
I guess, this morning on Mornings with Richard Cross. We've got half an hour left with you, some news stories to get to, your messages on the C Spire text line, and more. Alongside Lance, I'm Richard. This is MRC.
From the Seabrook.
Know where the news is going next. Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi.
Glad to be with you. It is Mornings with Richard Cross. Today is Thursday, the 25th of September. We're glad to have you along for the ride. This afternoon, Sports Talk Mississippi will be at Scruggs Farm, Lawn, and Garden in Saltillo. You can take advantage of their end-of-season sales. 0% financing for 72 months on John Deere compact tractors. 2.5% for 48 months on Gators, 0% for 24 months on commercial mowers. So some great opportunities if you were looking to get in the game. Scruggs can help you do that. I think the great question, Lance, today is whether or not I'm coming home with a tractor at the end of the day.
No, you need to. Buy two of them.
Not opposed to it. I mean, it's free money. It's 0% financing.
Yeah. As long as you got a job, you're good, right?
There is a payment attached to that, right?
That's right.
We'll see. I mean, I might could be convinced, but it's got to be one of those package deals. It can't just be the tractor. It's got to have the front end loader.
You need all the implements.
Got to have a clipper.
You got the trailer for it?
You know, yes, I have a trailer, but the trailer is limping along, and a 16-foot trailer for a tractor with a bucket is not ideal. You really need a 20-foot trailer.
You need a 20
with the fold-down ramps. Mm-hmm. So they probably need to put the trailer in the package as well.
Right. I would. You know, we keep the bucket and the cutter on the back on the trailer. Mm-hmm. That always makes it easy. You know, you just wheel it off and ready to go.
Yeah. And it's really arduous if you got to drive the tractor from point A to point B to get it where you need it to be.
Well, I mean, you know, from our house to Issaquena County, I don't know if that. I don't know if I'd be able to make that.
Don't recommend.
Yeah, I wouldn't try that.
I have made the drive a few times, like from my in-laws into town with the tractor. And, you know, it's about 15, 17 miles, something like that.
Really? Wow.
That's a pretty good ride on an old John Deere. But you know, as long as you got some time and some earbuds, you're good.
You ramp up the volume on that thing, man. I mean,
no doubt.
Yeah, we're going about 4 miles an hour.
Well, a little faster
maybe
than that.
8.
I mean, it's paved. I mean, it's not like, you know, hard scrabble.
But still, those things they're not made for speed, you know.
No, they're not. You can get up, 12 miles an hour or something.
Yeah, like jogging speed, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you get it up into third, and then, you've got the first, second, and third, and then you've got the gears within the, what do you call that? So I mean, like they're or maybe you've got A, B, C, and then 1, 2, 3, 4.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you call A, B, and C? Like different, it's not torque levels, but
it depends on the tractor, I'm sure. I mean, mine's older, so.
Well, I mean, like A would be your lowest gear, and so if you're in first gear in A, range gears. There we go.
Yeah.
Somebody described it that way. So if you're in
you got a range.
If you're in
within
first
each.
in range A, you are creeping along, and if you're in fourth in C, then you can move along okay.
And get that idle running pretty good too.
Yeah.
Max it out. But yeah, whenever I'm digging with the ripper, man, that thing's in low and 1.
Mm-hmm. No, I'm with you. I'm with you.
Yeah, but I'm trying to get 5 miles back to the cabin because it's time for some lunch or a beer. That thing's it's jacked up as fast as that baby will go.
Yeah.
A little humming and rattling. You're doing good when there's some bolts popping out.
Getting a lot of people that are telling me high and low. I understand high and low, but I'm talking if you've got 3 of those different ranges, like you do on some, I guess, newer tractor models. I don't know. Anyway, for those of you that are like, you idiot, those are called range gears. I mean, I knew what they were. I just didn't know exactly how you properly described them. There is a looming government shutdown. Well, that's fun to talk about. Tractor's way more fun to talk about than a looming government shutdown. And the question is, what do you need to know about a potential looming government shutdown? Well, one thing you may need to know is you better put on a helmet, because it appears that the Trump administration is playing hardball. Democrats want concessions, right? To do not a full bill, but a months-long continuing resolution to kick the can down the road. They want concessions from the White House. And it's money for things that are important to them, but with like $1 billion price tag or a $500 million price tag. And Trump has told Schumer and others, kick rocks in the past, and most recently, no, I'm not going to sit down and meet with you when your demands are as ridiculous as what you are bringing to the table. You're wasting my time and your own time. No, we're not going to talk. And now this. The White House is telling agencies to prepare large-scale firings of federal workers if the government shuts down next week. The current funding bill in place takes you to September 30th. Now, Republicans say, look, if this doesn't happen, it is on the Democrats. We put a clean, good faith bill forward, and they voted it down. And so this is fully on them. Now, Democrats will say, oh, the Republicans want to take away your health care and rob you of this and that, and they're going to fire people. And okay, it's a war of words back and forth. In a memo released last night, the Office of Management and Budget said agencies should consider a reduction in force for federal programs whose funding would lapse next week. Is not otherwise funded and is not consistent with the president's priorities. And that would be a much more aggressive step than in previous shutdowns when workers were furloughed and then immediately returned to their jobs, usually with back pay for the time that they were laid off, once Congress approves the new government spending. A reduction in force would not only lay off employees, but eliminate their positions, which would trigger yet another massive upheaval in a federal workforce that has already faced major rounds of cuts this year when DOGE was doing its thing.
George Bush would call that strategery.
Chess versus checkers. Trump wants to reduce the size of government, in theory. And so now is as good a time, I suppose, as any to say, well, if we're going to shut them down and we have categories that are called non-essential employees, if indeed they are non-essential, then let's just eliminate those positions and we'll keep essential people employed. Now, here's the human part of this. It's easy to talk about this in the abstract, right? I mean, it's easy to take a story from the Wall Street Journal or the AP and say, these are the facts, this is what the government memo has sent out. And when it's words on a paper, words that say, agencies should consider a reduction in force for federal programs whose funding would lapse next week, those are just words on a paper. We know what they mean, but do we think about what they really mean? Because there is a good chance that you know someone that would be affected by this. There's a good chance that you've got somebody that gets up and goes to work every day and does their job and is happy enough in their job. Maybe they love their job. Maybe they hate it, whatever, but it's a job. And because Congress can't get to a spending bill you got a government shutdown. And in this particular government shutdown, Trump's administration has said, you know what? If they're laid off because they're non-essential, just terminate them. That's a scary place to be. I mean, I've got family members that in past government shutdowns, what do? Well, I got a few days off. Well, that's fine for a weekend. Heck, that's fine for a week. You get a fall break. You start wondering when that paycheck is going to come and you got 2 kids to feed. You got a mortgage to pay. You got a car note. You got insurance. You got all those other things. And your job is like just hanging in the air uncertain. That's really disconcerting. If you add on top of that a termination altogether, now it's downright scary. And I'm not saying that I necessarily disagree with this tactic by the Trump administration. I mean, if you are a conservative, and I'm using conservative as opposed to Republican in this sentence, if you are a conservative, then one of your core beliefs is smaller government is better government. And if smaller government is better government, that means you got to get rid of some of these jobs. And I understand that. But it is a legitimate toll on a lot of people that's really, really hard and is going to leave a lot of people going, what do we do next? But it does not look like a spending resolution is going to get worked out in the next 5 days.
Oh, filibuster. Just everything you need to know to start your day smarter. Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi.
Thank you for being with us on this Thursday morning in a Mississippi Minute with Steve Azar. Later today, an interview with Mississippi author Martin Hegwood. Junior college football tonight, high school football tonight, tomorrow night, junior high football tonight, college football this weekend. Another football weekend is upon us. We'll get you ready for all that football this afternoon with Sports Talk Mississippi from Scruggs Farm, Lawn, and Garden in Saltillo. I will be there alongside Brian Haydad. Michael Borky has an assignment tonight, and so he's not able to make the trip, so I'm going to slide in. We're looking forward to that. Lance?
Yes, sir.
Residents of a San Francisco Bay Area suburb are on the lookout for an aggressive squirrel that has sent at least 2 people to the emergency room for medical treatment.
Don't mess with squirrels now.
A lady named Joan Heblack told the ABC affiliate in San Francisco that she was walking in the Lucas Valley neighborhood of San Rafael when a squirrel seemingly came out of nowhere and attacked her leg, clawing and biting it. It clamped onto my leg, she said. The tail was flying up. Here I was like, get off of me, get off of me. Isabel Campoy also said that she was attacked while walking in the same area. The squirrel launched itself from the ground to her face and wound up on her arm, leaving it bloody, she says. Both women went to the emergency room. Flyers have now been posted warning residents that the squirrel is no joke and that more than 5 people have been attacked by a, quote, very mean squirrel that comes out of nowhere.
The chupacabra squirrel, yeah.
Lisa Block with Marin Humane says that they have had no reports of squirrel attacks since mid-September. If the squirrel crops up again, the nonprofit will coordinate with the state to remove the animal. I mean, you wonder.
You got to get the state
You
involved.
wonder why it is that California is as broke as it is.
Does anybody know how to, anybody own a cat? I mean,
Or a 22,
Yeah.
or a pellet gun,
Well,
or a BB gun, or do you have a transformer right up there where you can run across the line and hit that tripwire and it goes, knocks your power out, but the squirrel's gone?
Yeah.
The lady with Marin Humane, wonder who she voted for. We've seen this kind of behavior before. She said it's almost always because someone has been feeding the animal.
Oh, of course, yeah.
The good thing is that squirrels are not vectors for rabies. She says people should never feed wildlife. San Rafael's in Marin County, about 20 miles north of San Francisco.
Yeah, we eat them down here,
I love that we got the Humane Society lady on to be like, it's okay. We haven't heard anything about this since mid-September, and if there's another one, we will coordinate. They will coordinate
have a meeting
with
about it.
the state to remove a squirrel.
Yeah, we put them in
Look, I am
dumplings.
sure there are a lot of reasons to live in California, the weather chief among them. But good golly, if you need another reason not to move to California.
Yeah, like I said, apparently they don't eat squirrel dumplings, so they need to learn.
I don't care whether you eat it or not. Get a dog. Get a pellet gun. Get a BB gun. Get a 22. Get an electrical transformer. Get a cat. Get a whatever.
Well, you can get one of those illegal immigrants, too, that was here for a while. Yeah, I'm sure they'll take care of it for you.
The ones from Springfield?
Yeah, the ones who are eating everything inside, like eating geese, with the feathers on them and everything. I think I would just give one of those a call. That
You
would be
never
free.
fail, by the way. Those of you on the C Spire text line, you never disappoint. Ray Stevens wrote a song about that squirrel.
Yeah, he did.
Mm-hmm. And it wasn't the streak.
No.
That's a different one.
He had quite a few winners in the grouping.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. Dave will be along tomorrow morning. Lance will be here. I'll be with Hey Dad this afternoon for Sports Talk Mississippi.
And then
off
you're going to buy
tomorrow,
a tractor.
Maybe. I mean, I could.
If you do, you got to have a pick of it for Monday. So
I could be persuaded. We'll see how hungry they are at Scruggs. we got
to make some deals today.
We got a salesman that's hungry. I'll be there about 1 o'clock. We'll maybe 2. We'll figure it out.
Well, I've got Battlestar Galactica on the way out, just in case you need some music to motivate you to make a deal.
Well, that's just what I needed. Thanks for being with us. I appreciate Senator Nicole Boyd and Neil White joining me this morning. Good conversations with both of them. It's been a pleasure. For Lance, I'm Richard. Mornings with Richard Cross, Super Talk Mississippi. I'll be back with you on Monday.
A SuperTalk Mississippi media production.